Ring Around the Rosie, a pocket full of posies. Rockabye baby on the treetop, London Bridge is falling down. We all know the words. They're the background music to our earliest memories. We sang them in schoolyards, chanted them on playgrounds, and maybe even whispered them to our own kids, all without a single care in the world. They feel like the very definition of innocence. Sweet, simple, and safe. But what if that's a lie? What if these weren't just songs? What if they were warnings? For generations, people have believed that before they were lullabies, many of these rhymes were whispered stories about real-world terror. They supposedly speak of plagues that wiped out entire populations, of queens who delighted in torture, and of political rebellions that ended at the executioner's block. They are filled with the ghosts of history, hiding in plain sight, disguised as entertainment for children. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're going to explore the gruesome histories, the disputed legends, and the terrifying true stories that are secretly encoded into the rhymes you thought you knew. Prepare yourself, because after this, you will never hear them the same way again. Let's start with maybe the most famous and most debated dark origin story of them all. Ring Around the Rosie, a pocket full of posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. The scene it conjures is one of pure childhood joy. A circle of friends, holding hands, spinning faster and faster until they collapse in a fit of giggles. But for over a century, a much darker interpretation has taken root. This isn't a game. The theory goes, it's a step-by-step description of dying from the bubonic plague. The story is chillingly specific. In this theory, the ring around the Rosie supposedly describes the red, ring-like rash that was believed to be a first sign of infection. The pocket full of posies is said to refer to the small bouquets of herbs people carried. They believed disease was spread by miasma, or bad air, and the fragrant posies were a desperate attempt to ward off the foul smells of sickness. The next line, which changes depending on where you are, is even more direct. In America, it's ashes, ashes. This is often claimed to be a reference to the cremation of plague victims. In Britain, it's often a tissue, mimicking the violent sneezing that could be a symptom of the plague's pneumonic form. Either way, the conclusion is the same. We all fall down. A simple, brutal line representing death during a pandemic that claimed millions of lives. It's a terrifying narrative. It transforms a simple game into a folk memory of one of humanity's darkest chapters. But what if I told you that this entire story, as powerful as it is almost certainly a modern myth? The truth is, historians and folklorists have found a huge problem with the plague theory: the timeline. For a rhyme to be about the Great Plague of the 1600s or the Black Death of the 1300s, you'd expect to find some version of it written down around that time. But there's nothing. The first time Ring Around the Rosie ever appears in print is in 1881. That's more than 200 years after the Great Plague of London. The connection between the rhyme and the plague was only popularized in the mid-20th century. It's a story that's closer to 60 years old, not 600. On top of that, the details don't really fit. Rashes weren't a common symptom of the plague, and mass burial in plague pits was far more common than cremation. So, if it's not about the plague, where did it come from? The most accepted theory among folklorists is that it originated from 19th century play party games. During periods of strict religious observance, dancing was sometimes seen as sinful. To get around this, communities held play parties with games that involved song and movement but weren't technically dancing. Ring Around the Rosie was likely one of these, a simple ditty to accompany a circle game that ended with a curtsy or a tumble. While the plague theory is a powerful piece of folklore in its own right, its connection to the rhyme is a legend, not a fact. It's a chilling story we've told ourselves, a modern ghost story attached to an old song. Next, we turn our attention to a deceptively sweet rhyme about gardening. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row. The innocent interpretation paints a picture of a pleasant girl named Mary, tending to her flower beds. But the most popular dark theory insists this rhyme isn't about horticulture. It's about homicide. And the Mary in question is no ordinary girl. She's Queen Mary I of England, daughter of King Henry VIII, better known to history as Bloody Mary. To understand this theory, you have to understand her reign. Mary I was a devout Catholic who took the throne in 1553 and was determined to reverse the English Reformation, making her contrary to the country's growing Protestant population. According to this grim interpretation, the rhyme is a taunt. The garden isn't a flower bed, but a graveyard, filling up with Protestant martyrs. When the rhyme asks, "How does your garden grow?" it's a sick joke about the rising body count. The silver bells and cockle shells are said to be nicknames for instruments of torture, thumbscrews and a vicious genital clamp respectively. And the pretty maids all in a row? Not flowers, but a line of victims, or perhaps a reference to the maiden, an early guillotine. It's a portrait of a monstrous ruler. During her 5-year reign, Mary I had more than 280 religious dissenters executed for heresy by being burned at the stake. The nickname Bloody Mary certainly fits the gruesome theory, but just like with Ring Around the Rosie, the historical evidence for a direct link is speculative at best. The rhyme was first published in 1744, nearly 200 years after Mary I's death. And there's no solid proof that silver bells and cockle shells were common names for torture devices, or that she favored their use. Alternative theories suggest the Mary is Mary, Queen of Scots, with the rhyme describing her lavish dresses and ladies-in-waiting. Another points to the Virgin Mary. In truth, while the Bloody Mary theory is the most famous, it remains just that, a theory. A fascinating but unproven piece of historical gossip that has given a simple gardening rhyme a reputation for murder. This is a rhyme and a game known around the world. Two children form an arch, while others file underneath, singing the ominous tune. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. The game ends when the arch falls and captures a player. It's a bit of playground fun. But one of the most disturbing theories about its origin suggests the game is a reenactment of a brutal ancient ritual, immurement. That's the practice of entombing a living person within the foundations of a structure to ensure it remains strong. According to this theory, the rhyme chronicles the bridge's constant collapse. The verses describe failed attempts to rebuild it with various materials, but the horrifying solution in some versions is to set a man to watch all night. This watchman is believed to be a human sacrifice sealed into the bridge's foundations. The game we play, where a child is captured, it's seen as a folk memory of this terrifying selection process. It's a horrifying idea, and the actual London Bridge has had a long and troubled history of damage from fires, ice, and even a tornado, which lends the theory a sliver of plausibility. But did this ever lead to human sacrifice? While the idea of immurement is a potent piece of folklore, there is no credible archaeological or historical evidence to suggest it was ever practiced in London. When skeletons were found near the bridge in 2007, they were in an old tomb, unrelated to the bridge's structure. So what's the real story? It more likely reflects the bridge's constant and very real structural problems, which were a source of endless expense for centuries. Another strong theory points to a Viking attack in 1014. A Norse saga written around 1230 contains a verse that translates to "London Bridge is broken down," suggesting this historical event may have become the rhyme we know today. As for the fair lady, her identity is a complete mystery, with guesses ranging from queens to the Virgin Mary, but none have any real proof. It is without a doubt one of the most unsettling lullabies, even on the surface. Rock-a-bye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. Why would anyone sing about a baby falling from a tree to help a child sleep? It seems bizarre. But a popular political theory suggests this is a coded death wish aimed at the heir to the British throne. This interpretation takes us to 1688, during the Glorious Revolution. The Catholic King James II had just had a son, James Francis Edward Stuart, sparking fears of a Catholic dynasty in a fiercely Protestant nation. Immediately, rumors spread that the baby wasn't the Queen's, but a commoner's child smuggled into the palace. According to the theory, Rock-a-bye baby is a piece of propaganda. The baby is the new prince. His cradle on the treetop is his precarious position in the royal house of Stuart. The wind is the Protestant wind, said to have helped William of Orange's fleet invade England. When that wind blows and the bough breaks, when the Stuart dynasty collapses, down will come baby, cradle and all. It's a prediction for the downfall of the Catholic monarchy. An early printing of the rhyme even included a footnote. This may serve as a warning to the proud and ambitious, who climb so high that they generally fall at last. It's a brilliant political allegory. But like our other rhymes, it's highly speculative. The rhyme's first known printing was around 1765, long after the Revolution. A competing theory, also conjectural, suggests the rhyme came from America, where English settlers may have observed Native American mothers hanging birch bark cradles from tree branches. The rhyme could simply be an observation of this practice, with a bit of morbid curiosity. So, while the idea of a treacherous plot is intriguing, the rhyme may not be a coded message of treason at all. Here's a rhyme so simple and nonsensical that it seems to defy any real-world explanation. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. We all know Humpty Dumpty is an egg, mostly thanks to Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass. But the rhyme never says he's an egg. We assume it because it fits the riddle. But what if Humpty Dumpty wasn't an egg, but a massive piece of military hardware? The most popular historical theory claims Humpty Dumpty was the nickname for a giant cannon during the English Civil War at the 1648 Siege of Colchester. The Royalists, supporters of the king, placed a large cannon on the tower of St. Mary at the Wall Church. From there, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, causing major damage until parliamentarian cannon fire destroyed the tower beneath it. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. The king's men tried to lift the massive cannon back up, but it was too heavy and broken. They couldn't put Humpty together again. This story neatly explains every line. The only problem? It's almost certainly not true. It's a classic example of folk etymology, a plausible but fictional story made up later. The rhyme was first recorded in 1797, over 150 years after the siege, and there are no historical accounts of a cannon named Humpty Dumpty. The reality is likely much simpler. Humpty Dumpty was an 18th century slang term for a short, clumsy person, and was also the name of a type of drink. The rhyme was probably always a riddle, and the longest-standing answer has always been an egg. The cannon story is exciting, but it appears to be historical fiction. Let's look at a rhyme that seems to be a simple counting lesson. Ba, ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for the master, 1 for the dame, and 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane. It's a cute exchange, but many believe this rhyme is an old complaint about oppressive medieval taxes. This theory dates the rhyme to King Edward I's reign in the 13th century, when he imposed a heavy tax on wool in 1275. In this interpretation, the bags of wool show where the money went. 1 for the master was for the king, and 1 for the dame was for the church. And the final bag? In today's version, it goes to the little boy who lives down the lane, representing the poor shepherd who did the work. However, some have pointed to a later variant of the rhyme that ends with, and none for the little boy who cries in the lane. This one-word change transforms the rhyme into a bitter protest song. After the king and church take their shares, nothing is left for the common man. It's a compelling theory, but it has a massive hole in it. The rhyme first appeared in print in 1744, almost 500 years after the tax it supposedly criticizes. Because of that huge time gap, most scholars today see the connection as possible, but very weakly supported, while the rhyme taps into a real and long-standing resentment over taxes. Its origin as a 13th century protest is likely just another myth. We've delved into plagues, executions, and rebellions, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you found this journey into the shadows of the nursery fascinating, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more historical mysteries. Now, we want to hear from you. What other nursery rhymes have you always found a little strange? Which dark origins should we investigate next? Let us know in the comments below. From plagues that never were, to cannons that were probably just eggs, the songs of our childhood are a tangled web of historical fact, popular legend, and modern misunderstanding. They show us that stories are living things. They change over time, picking up new meanings and shedding old ones. A rhyme can start as a simple playground game and centuries later become a terrifying, though incorrect, story about the Black Death. A political jab at a monarch can fade until all that's left is a simple song about a girl in her garden. These rhymes are a powerful reminder that history is all around us, often in the most unexpected places. They prove that even the most innocent traditions can carry the echoes of our ancestors' greatest fears and their political struggles. They are messages from the past, daring us to look closer, to question what we think we know, and to find the warnings hidden in the songs we sing to our children. So the next time you hear a simple nursery rhyme, listen a little closer. You might just hear the faint whispers of ghosts